I'd go to an island and I'd move there and I'd never box again.
I guess it's fair to say that Johnny Fisher will never reach British level after that knockout loss, unfortunately, because in reality he is now 0-2 against Dave Allen, as he definitely should have lost that first fight to Allen on the cards back in December too. And I don't say that with a great deal of joy in the regard of Johnny Fisher losing, because I don't have anything against him at all. I'm quite fond of the lad, but I had to do that intro for meme's sake. That Dave Allen quote is absolutely iconic. He said that in reaction to AJ's loss to Andy Ruiz 6 years ago now, and I've been quoting it ever since, and I am happy for Dave Allen in victory here. This duology of Johnny Fisher has done the world of good for the Doncaster De La Hoya. Personally, I picked Johnny Fisher to win this rematch by knockout in the first half of the fight. I got the sense that Dave Allen got too comfortable and confident about that first fight that he, again, definitely got robbed in and ought to have won 96-93 on the cards. And he of course came in heavy ahead of this rematch, so I was just feeling that he just thought he was that much the better boxer and had that much more experience on Fisher that he just couldn't lose to him no matter what shape he's in, so he wasn't taking Fisher too seriously. And then I thought that Fisher would be able to go back to the drawing board and come in more prepared this time based off the flaws he displayed in that last fight, and get the job done against the lazy Dave Allen this time around. But no, Allen got the win again behind 2 knockdowns in the 5th round. And Dave Allen apparently had been sharpening up on his tools with his coach Jamie Moore to make improvements for this rematch and actually get the W this time around officially, because although he should have got the win last time on the cards, he failed to finish Johnny Fisher after dropping him hard in the 5th. That knockdown left Johnny Fisher out of it for the rest of the fight, but Allen couldn't get the job done. But this time he would be clinical enough to get the finish in the 5th round after dropping him in that same round again. But Dave Allen's successful strategy aside, I do really think there was an element of Dave Allen not really feeling the need to come in overly motivated or in shape for Johnny Fisher, and it turns out that Allen was right. He did just have the battering of the kid. Johnny Fisher has really met his match against Dave Allen. I know Dave Allen has struggled with motivation and stuff in the past, but I would have thought this fight was one he'd get in a bit better shape for. Now technically, Johnny Fisher only has 1 loss as of now, and even if we do call it 2 losses, they're both to the same man, so maybe it's unfair to write off Johnny Fisher right now. Allen might just be his worst nightmare matchup. But to be honest, I already wrote him off completely from world level hopes after the first Allen fight on that Usyk Fury 2 undercard, and now even British level looks highly doubtful after fight 2. Before this loss, myself and I'm sure a good few others saw Johnny Fisher as an explosive and athletic powerful puncher without the best boxing skills, and that gave him the puncher's chance to get in the mix at British level, which Dave Allen himself touched on in a pre-fight face-off. But after that KO loss we just saw, Fisher is now a guy who still hasn't got the best boxing skills and doesn't really look to have a chin, or perhaps just doesn't have the experience to deal with being hurt. Granted, Dave Allen is a solid fighter who has displayed power in the past, but you don't really get chinned by someone like Dave Allen in that fashion and go on to make a big mark on the sport. Now credit should go to Johnny Fisher for actually taking the rematch after actually officially winning the first fight, despite getting dropped hard and winning a robbery, because some boxers of the past that have lost early on in their careers didn't even bother rematch the guy who beat them, then went on to be great. Like David Haye, who got stopped by Carl Thompson, never even tried to avenge that loss, and then went on to be a 2-weight world champion, unified at cruiserweight, and a heavyweight champ. But in regards to actually going on to recover from a stoppage loss in the early days, before gaining the experience that he did after that loss to Thompson, Haye had already displayed a level of boxing skill that seems unfeasible for Johnny Fisher to ever develop. I do not envisage Fisher ever having sophisticated enough defense to use the right head slots to evade punches and what have you. He's got his little habits of backing straight up with a lazy Philly shell and prodding too much and things like that, and I don't think he can ever really brush up on that, to be frank. Fisher doesn't have the amateur pedigree, and although I say he's a good athlete in that he's fit and explosive, I don't think that he's physically dynamic enough to become a defensively sound heavyweight. So that lack of skill, coupled with the fact that he just got chinned like that by Dave Allen, is why I'm comfortable writing him off in regards to his hopes of winning a British title. Oh, trust me, I don't wish for that, as I do like the kid, and it would have been cool to see him go on to achieve such a thing, but as much as I don't wish for him to not win a British title, I would bet on him to not win a British title. You know what? Anyone who comments Fisher will go on to win the British title on this video within the first 12 hours of the upload, I'll remember all of you, I'll screenshot it. And I'll send you all 20 quid each if Johnny Fisher ever wins the British title. Because I don't see it happening anytime soon, so hopefully I'll be rich by then. Well, it's not going to happen anyway, but yeah. Which is why I'm making that offer. But with all this banging on about British level, what is the British title scene like right now then? Well, the current champion is David Adelaide, a man who has actually suffered a loss of his own before winning that precious Lonsdale belt in a vacant title fight against Jamie TKV last month. But Adelaide's loss was to Fabio Wardley. a former British champ himself who we could say is levels above Dave Allen. Absolutely caved the head in of Fraser Clark, who beat Dave Allen. So a Fabio Wardley is someone you could lose to then go on to be British champ after the fact. Not a Dave Allen, there's levels here, which is exactly why Fisher won't cut it for British level unfortunately. But to stay on the topic of the current British title scene, due to the controversial finish to Adelai's win over TKV in that vacant title fight, and the fact that Adelai was almost getting outboxed by TKV up until he stopped him, they're still talking about an Adelai versus TKV rematch for the title. But I'm personally not too fussed about the rematch because the first fight wasn't really exciting until the point of the finish, and I think Adelai would find a way to get the finish again in a rematch anyway. So let's just acknowledge Adelai as the current standard bearer for British level now. Struggling to say Adelai properly here. Adelai? Let's just move on. So yes, Dave Allen is a good boxer who picks his shots well, goes to the head and body to open a guy up. But if Fisher can get caught clean that easily by a Dave Allen who just plods forward really, and with the fact that this was meant to be a more careful Johnny Fisher in the rematch than the one we saw in the first fight as well, someone as explosive as David Adelai would probably just brain Johnny Fisher. And as for Dave Allen, he's talking about going for the British title after this win, which I love to see. But I also don't see Dave Allen beating Adelai either. That's not to say Adelai is this amazing fighter, but let's just have it right. We for sure wouldn't have picked Dave Allen to beat Adelai before Allen's duology with Johnny Fisher just now. But Allen's win over Fisher was just an expose of Fisher's poor boxing skills, rather than the start of this big career resurgence for Dave Allen. But Dave Allen hasn't challenged for the British title yet in his 13-year-long pro career, despite fighting at a decent level. And I'm a fan of Dave Allen, so if he did take on Adelai for the British title and got the upset win, then I'd be over the moon for Allen. And if Adelai beat Allen, as I would expect, it would be a great title defence for Adelai name-wise. So Dave Allen getting his British title shot against Adelai, I'm all for it. But looking at what's next for Dave Allen, it's not what has been the main story for me coming out of Allen's rematch with Johnny Fisher. So yes, I'm making it about the promoter again. That's twice now in my last 4 videos. But I wouldn't be right if I didn't talk about how much of a blow this result is to Eddie Hearn's Matchroom boxing. Now although I do have my criticisms of Eddie Hearn, I'm not one of these people who likes to focus all of this energy on hating on him at all. And as for how much Eddie was hyping up the Romford Bull Johnny Fisher, most people were sick and tired of it. But I believe I have said in the past that I don't mind it. He was hyping up Johnny beyond his means, and Johnny was therefore getting more hype than a plethora of heavyweights who are way better than him as a result of the whole Matchroom push, but it was harmless as far as I saw it. He's a good ticket seller, selling out the old copper bush. He's got a charming gimmick that has garnered him a big fan base. Well, you could say a good bit of that was his father's doing. And he's a heavyweight with KO power. So why not make some good dosh with him, and we can all have a bubble until he inevitably gets exposed before reaching world level. And then all his detractors can have a bubble. Well, he's got exposed way before world level. But even now, I'm sure Eddie Hearn could still sell some tickets off of him on the domestic scene if the Bull Army do indeed remain faithful after seeing their boy get brained like that. So yeah, I neither dislike Eddie Hearn nor Johnny Fisher. But the reason why I continue to go on about how these results affect Eddie Hearn is because a few months ago, on February 13th to be exact, I produced a deep dive into the demise of Eddie Hearn. I went in on the failures he has faced in the last year plus, and I almost predicted, or shall I say, elaborated on the trajectory of his further demise. I've realised now that video didn't do too great because I spent the first 30 odd minutes going on about the demise of some lesser known fighters of his, but after that, I do get into Matchroom's heavyweight stable and Eddie's ongoing rivalry with Frank Warren and everything like that. So click the link at the top of the description after this one to check out that deep dive. And the topics of discussion are organised into timestamps. And now, I don't want to say the contents of that video has aged well, but for any of you who actually dislike Eddie Hearn and Matchroom boxing, then that video would have aged tremendously as far as you're concerned. So basically, Eddie Hearn has 4 heavyweights as of right now. Granted, he has a massive cruiserweight in Pat Brown who made his big debut since I made that video, the very Pat Brown who labouringly hoisted up Dave Allen on his shoulders in celebration after he knocked out Johnny Fisher last night, funnily enough. And he's probably liable for a move to heavyweight at any point in his career, maybe even before he starts going for titles at the £200 limit. But he's listed as a cruiserweight, so as far as we're concerned right now, Eddie's 4 heavyweights are whatever's left of Anthony Joshua, which is what I said in that previous video, but now I add whatever's left of Johnny Fisher, and now I'll also add whatever will be left of Justice Hooney after fighting Fabio Wardley in June. And lastly, the yet to be exposed prospect, Tera Moana. So realistically, Eddie Hearn gets 1 or 2 more massive paydays out of AJ, then AJ's gone. Probably just the one. So let's say the Matchroom heavyweight stable goes down to 3 within the next year if they don't sign another one. So yeah, you're left with just 3 fighters. Justis Huni, who is the only world level one, fringe world level perhaps, but he's ranked generously by the WBO. You've got Johnny Fisher, who we have established likely won't even reach British level, he's been fully exposed, and then the completely untested Tera Moana. All Eddie can hope for is that his big heavyweight prospect in Tera Moana bulldozes his way to the top, but there's no evidence to say that that will be the case anytime soon based on his level of opponent thus far, or lack thereof. I know he's got to be built up, but I'm just saying, let's not get too high on him just now. And in that lengthy Eddie Hearn video of mine, I spoke well of Justis Huni's boxing skills. He's a good mover who puts his punches together nicely, and seems to have a decent gas tank on him as well. But I discussed how he showed a shaky chin in that Kevin Lorena fight, got rocked bad in the final round. And he's shown quite the lack of power for a heavyweight too. And I'd gone on a 4-fight no knockout streak already, which, yes, it's good to show that you can go the rounds, but for a heavyweight prospect, we've got to see more KOs. So nothing against Justis Huni at all. Not sure if you guys can tell that with Johnny Fisher, I do like him, but I don't rate his boxing skills that much at all. But I do actually rate Justis Huni. He's nice with it. But if we throw Anthony Joshua out of the picture and consider him done for, Huni is Matchroom's only world level heavyweight. And for your only world level heavyweight to have a lack of power and a lack of chin is way less than ideal. In that video I also pointed out Eddie Hearn's careless matchmaking. Fun matchmaking for the time being, but ones that will literally just get his prospects beat. And I expressed my confusion with the fact that Eddie Hearn was looking to match both Johnny Fisher and Justis Huni, half of his heavyweight stable, against the dangerous Moses Saitama, which probably wouldn't go well at all, and expresses a lack of long-term planning for his heavyweights, despite those fights being ones that we all want to see as fans. And those matchmaking comments I made aged accurately, shall I say, as Eddie Hearn had just thrown the undefeated Justis Huni in to fight Fabio Wardley on a few weeks' notice after Jarrell Miller pulled out of that Wardley fight late notice. Again, fan-friendly stuff there, and I won't complain about it. I'm actually really looking forward to that fight at Portman Road, and it probably does more for Wardley than the Miller fight would have. But Justis Huni is a big underdog in that fight for a reason, man. I won't completely write Justis Huni off from world level hopes if he loses to Fabio Wardley, but if Huni gets chinned badly in there, which may very well happen, it won't be looking good for Matchroom's limited heavyweight roster. And trust me, I'll be the first to big Huni up if he beats Wardley. I'll literally make a video saying Matchroom's heavyweight stable is still alive, as I'm not trying to hate on Matchroom to be trendy out here, but their downfall is very interesting to follow, especially at heavyweight. And if Huni loses to Wardley, as the odds suggest is very likely, the downfall continues to get worse. So if you're thinking heavyweight boxing isn't everything, that would be right, but it is the premier division of boxing, and Matchroom's heavyweight stable pales in comparison to that of their rivals, Queensberry Promotions, which I detail in that lengthy and girthy video that I keep referencing. Skip on over to the heavyweight stable timestamp for the analysis on that. But let's just say now, 4 heavyweights won't cut it if you want your promotion to have any mark on the division in this current heavyweight climate. And funnily enough, one of the few Matchroom fighters who I did big up in that video who aimed to heavyweight was Jack Catterall, and then he lost to Barboza 2 days after I posted the vid. So again, the video would have aged amazingly for any of you Eddie Hearn haters out there. Also for the announcement of Jack Catterall vs Harlem Eubank, I do see another case of a Matchroom boy losing to a Eubank, let's say. And speaking of the demise of Matchroom's heavyweight stable, when their main man Anthony Joshua challenged for Daniel Dubois' IBF World Heavyweight title last year and got battered around the ring until getting flattened, it was referee Marcus McDonnell who gave the A-side fighter Anthony Joshua such a fighting chance in there. Well, he arguably bought AJ time to recover. And now in the Fisher vs Allen rematch, it was the same referee in Marcus McDonnell who also gave the Matchroom boy Johnny Fisher more of a fighting chance than a lot of other fighters would have got after that first knockdown. Best believe I ain't complaining, because I'd much rather a late stoppage than an early stoppage, because we tune into boxing to see people get absolutely brained the way both Anthony Joshua and Johnny Fisher did, but I just thought that I would point that out. Because if Dave Allen was rocked the way Johnny Fisher was after that first knockdown, we all know Allen ain't getting the same fighting chance from the referee there. So yeah, I just wanted to quickly follow up on how things have now actually gotten even worse for Matchroom's heavyweight stable since that video I put together back in February. I also do want to give props to Dave Allen for the win. Massive props for just beating the ring bell as well, for a knockout win 3 minutes into the round bang on, avoiding a DQ there. If only Paddy Donovan had the same timing, we'd be seeing him fighting Juan Ennis right now, but I digress. And I do want to acknowledge Dave Allen as a fighter who I've always respected, but the mainstream media outlets and Eddie Hearn are now doing damage control, talking up how great Dave Allen is so Johnny Fisher doesn't look too bad for losing to him. Look, Allen is no bum, but were they saying that he was this good before the first Johnny Fisher fight? Absolutely not. Dave Allen had 6 losses, 4 of which are by stoppage going into the first Johnny Fisher fight, and Allen's never even won an area title, so we have every right to say that the Johnny Fisher hype train is fully derailed after getting battered around the ring by Dave Allen twice now, getting face planted the second time around. Again, no ill will towards Johnny Fisher whatsoever, lovely bloke, but Eddie Hearn and the media can't try and brainwash people by glazing Dave Allen all of a sudden. But you guys let me know what you thought about the fight. Let me know what you think about Matchroom's heavyweight stable right now. If any of you guys caught the Boachuk fight later in the night, then let me know what you thought of that as well. Tony Yoka fought last night as well, a guy who stopped Dave Allen in the past, so let me know if any of you saw that one. Like the video if you enjoyed, and you have been listening to O.M.E Boxing.